Hey everyone, and welcome to my new video along with my new challenge. We're going to be starting a new challenge after finishing our old one of turning 10,000 into 50,000, which was called The Climb. We achieved that not too long ago in early April, or late March, I think it was. So I figured what a better way to continue the challenge by continuing the climb. But this time I am going to climb to crush. That is the new challenge title. And we're going to have a look at that right now and explain everything that has to do with this new challenge. So if we pull this up here and we show the graphic, this is our new challenge. So for all of those that followed the last challenge, I really appreciate it. It was a long challenge. It lasted more than a couple of years, almost a little short of 2 years, I think. But it was something that I was working on and rebuilding my bankroll from scratch, essentially. So I started off with 10,000 and I wanted to get back to the high stakes. So I set off to do a challenge to turn 10,000 into 50,000, and I did it, and I got back up to 510 NL, which some may say are high stakes, some may say are medium stakes, depending on what you play, if it's live, if it's online, whatever. But we did get there. So once I have gotten there, I decided I may as well keep going. I may as well try and move up to the high stakes or the nosebleed stakes, again, whatever you want to call them. But this has been my goal since I started playing online poker. I've always wanted to play high stakes poker. I've always wanted to compete at a higher level, not necessarily be the best player in the world, but definitely be able to beat the games at the highest level. So that leads to this challenge, which is climbing to crush. So the challenge goal is going to be to beat each limit that I play for a 4 big blind per 100 over 100K hand sample. Now, I think we can all agree that 4 big blinds per 100 is sufficient enough to call it crushing the limit. Now, some people may have a disagreement here, but for me personally, I think that 4 big blinds per 100 over a decent sample is crushing the game. But obviously, we could go over that or, go to 6 or 7 or 8. But 4 is the minimum, I think, requirement for being considered a crusher or someone that's beating the game. So that's the goal. And that means that we're going to start at 510 no limit, which is already a fairly difficult limit. And I have already gotten a little bit of a head start on this challenge because we started playing 510 during the previous challenge. I have gotten a bunch of hands this year already, which I'm going to include because this allows me to combine my actual poker goals with this new challenge. My actual poker goals were to get 100K hands over the year of 510 no limit and 3-6 combined. Now, this is more focused on 510 for 100K hands, so it's a little bit of a head start, not counting the 3-6 hands because that doesn't, qualify for 510, obviously. So I'm going to include the hands I've played already at 510. And we are going to continue using the bankroll management rules from the last challenge. So the last challenge was to use very simple bankroll management to be able to turn the 10K into 50K. The bankroll management was as simple as you can only buy into a game for 5% of your bankroll, and you must leave if you have 10% of your bankroll on the table. So we followed this to a T, even painfully so. When I had to leave a good game, I did it. And I think this system worked out for me. It was a bit aggressive if I had chosen to buy in for, the max of 5% of my bankroll at the time, because I would have to move down if I had lost only one buy-in. So we learned over time that it was better to just take a shot after I built up a little bit of cushion. So I don't know, you could call it like 4% of your bankroll or something like that. But the option is there to take big shots if I want it, to be able to buy in for 5% of the bankroll. Now, how much are we starting with? Well, for 510, I figure we should just keep using the previous bankroll that we've built up already. So I'm going to use a 50K bankroll, and that is non-replenishable. Okay, so we are going to have to drop down if I do go on a downswing. If I do, drop below the 20K mark for 510, I have to drop down. Now, there are no MTTs in this challenge. This is a pure cash challenge. This is only for my ability to crush cash games, not MTTs. Now, during the challenge of turning 10 to 50, we played a lot of MTTs. And I feel like as there was times where it was great, but the variance of MTTs and my lack of studying them and my lack of being able to compete at the higher limits, I feel was good and bad in a way, because it hindered my progress with the challenge in that I might be a losing player in MTTs. I'm not 100% sure. I keep telling people, like, don't buy my action unless you want to gamble, because I don't have evidence or proof that I'm winning at MTTs yet for online poker. So that is something that I felt was a bonus to remove the MTTs from this challenge, so that this is strictly just a cash game challenge. And I think a lot of players and viewers would enjoy watching me play cash and not play these MTT, events or series or whatever. That being said, on my own, I'll probably still play those MTTs just because I enjoy the sweat, and it's fun every so often to incorporate the bigger ones in my grind. But like the Venom and the OSS and all that stuff. But yeah, only cash challenge. We're going to try and crush each limit. Now, I mentioned we're starting at 510 no limit. However, there really is no end, technically, if I can continue to just keep moving up and crushing the games. However, I felt like in order to make it a nice, a bookend to the challenge, we would end at winning over 100K hands at 5K NL. So if I can beat 510, 1020, and then 2550 for 100K hands each at a 4 big blind per 100 win rate, we would call this challenge complete. So that would be the end of the challenge if we can beat 5K NL for a 4 big blind per 100 over 100K hands. I think 5K NL is probably one of the toughest games, if not the toughest game in the world right now. The competition is very high for 2550 and above. Some of the best players in the world, some of the players that played in the online cash game championships, they all play in those games. So it's going to be a proper challenge. I'm going to be challenging myself a lot for this. So I don't expect to cruise through this challenge. I think that we're probably going to have a lot of variance up and down because of what I've learned in the previous challenge, that you really have to find good games in order to be more consistent with your win rate. You have to make good decisions. You have to focus on strategy. You can't get out of line too often. Otherwise, the variance will occur and it will be brutal. So the higher you go, it's just even more magnified. So that's the plan. I think this is going to be really fun to watch and follow along, because obviously we're going to have more of an end goal. We're going to have a spreadsheet that you guys can follow along with, that I have a command in my Twitch chat for. I'll share that in the YouTube comments as well, or the description, sorry. And this is going to be here, the challenge progress. So I'm going to have the monetary progress graph and a hand counter. The hand counter is going to be separate from the graph that you can follow along with, but it's all going to be on the spreadsheet. So I'm going to update this spreadsheet every session that I have. I'm going to update the number of hands that we played so that you guys can see, as well as potentially the win rate. I have to figure out how I'm going to update the win rate, because that's going to require me to use Poker Tracker and stuff like that. But I'll try and get the win rate in there so you guys can tell if I'm on track or not, or too far away from the win rate. Now, the one thing about this challenge is it requires me to beat it for 4 big blinds per 100 at each stake. So what happens if we get 100K hands and I win at 3.5 big blinds per 100? Well, we got to start over. I think. I think that's going to be the play here. If we get to 100K hands, maybe if it's a good enough win rate to move up, we could move up, right? Like if I win at 3.2 or 3.4 big blinds per 100, we can call it like a failure at 510, but move up to 1020 and see if we can beat that. Or we just stick with 510 until we can get that win rate up to the 4 big blinds per 100. I haven't exactly figured out what we're going to do, but I'm going to worry about that more when we get closer to getting 100K hands because we're still far off that. But I would like your ideas on what happens if we don't achieve the 4 big blinds per 100 at each limit. Do we have to restart the whole 100K hand sample? Do we have to, move down if we lose? Like, what would you guys like to see if I don't achieve the 4 big blind per 100 win rate? So that's the new challenge. I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you guys come over to the Twitch and watch as I try and crush to climb.